Good morning. My name is Ms. Sosa, and today is Friday, September 25th. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Friday. And I'm very lucky to be having this special time with you. So, yesterday we were we spoke about how to grow your brain. And this lesson for Friday, you'll be learning about past mistakes and failures. So, yesterday you heard what can we do to grow and strengthen our brain and support our learning. The old saying, practice makes perfect, actually does help your brain grow and master a specific activity. So, if you are good at basketball and you practice and practice, so that means your brain, that part of the brain that supports you with basketball, is growing. So the more you practice, the more connections you're having in your brain doing basketball. So that was what we did yesterday. So today, we'll explore how mistakes can be learning opportunities. So let's start off with, I'm going to go to second step. So how can learning from your mistakes and failures. In this lesson, we'll explore how mistakes can be learning opportunities. The warm-up, it says, what's something new or difficult you did recently where you messed up or made a mistake? For me, when I was younger and learning how to cook, I remember that my mom had asked me to make some soup and I didn't know how to make it, so she gave me instructions and I got distracted doing something else instead of staying in the kitchen and I burned it. So, what happened when I made that mistake? Do you think that to make a mistake is part of life? Is it normal to make mistakes when trying to do something new or something that is difficult for you? Think about that for a little bit. Because I think that we all recognize that mistakes are part of learning. Because every day we learn something new. And if it's something new or something difficult, I am pretty sure we will all make mistakes. So, mistakes are part of life. Learning from them is part of having a growth mindset. What is a growth mindset? Can you think about that for a little bit? What is a growth mindset? So, a growth mindset is the belief that your brain can grow and change. If I have a fixed mindset, this is how we think. I'm bad at math. So that is not a growth mindset. That's fixed mindset. I'm bad at math. So you don't even try because you just assume that you're just bad at it. If you have a growth mindset, you think, I'm struggling with this concept, but I'll get it if I keep trying. So you figure it out. You can even Google some math problems. You can also go to YouTube and try to problem solve. So there's a lot of ways that you can try to figure out math if you're not good at it. And believe me, not everybody's good at math, but we have to keep trying. So right now, I want to introduce to you a video. We're going to watch a video about a big famous mistake that eventually led to a good outcome. As you watch, think about these questions. What big mistake did the engineers make? What did they learn from their mistakes? What would have happened if they'd given up? So, watch the video.
When it first first opened to the public in 1940, the Tacoma Narrows Bridge in Washington State was the third longest suspension bridge in the world, and a wonder to behold. But after only 4 months in operation, it crashed into the water below. What caused this amazing span of steel and concrete to collapse? To understand why the bridge collapsed, it helps to understand why it was built in the first place. People needed an easy, fast way to cross the Tacoma Narrows. Engineers presented the state with two options. They chose the lighter suspension design because it would look better, be faster to build, and save the state $5 million. Some engineers voiced concerns that the lighter, narrower design was structurally unsound for the conditions of the Narrows. But saving time and money was appealing enough that state officials moved forward with the cheaper option. Unfortunately, as the engineers had suspected, the design was flawed. The structure would undulate up and down in the strong winds across the Narrows. Not exactly a comfortable ride. Soon after its unveiling, the bridge was nicknamed Galloping Gertie. On a particularly windy day, several months after it opened, the bridge's up and down motion grew to a violent twisting from side to side. The force was too much for the span to handle, and Gertie could gallop no more. The collapse of the Tacoma Narrows Bridge was a shock, but there were lessons to be learned. Engineers, seeking to learn everything they could from their catastrophic mistake, began a 10-year period of research and design. The final design they created was a sturdier, wider bridge that had been rigorously tested for safety in high winds. The replacement Tacoma Narrows Bridge was open to traffic on October 14, 1950. Sturdy Gertie, as the new bridge became known, was indeed more solid than its predecessor. So solid, in fact, that when an eastbound companion bridge was completed in 2007, Sturdy Gertie was still standing, strong as ever. It stood the test of time for nearly 70 years. The replacement Tacoma Narrows Bridge is considered a hallmark of aerodynamic engineering that ushered in a new era of suspension bridge design. It even led engineers to reinforce other bridges across the country. None of these advances in bridge design or engineering would have been possible if it weren't for one big mistake and a group of determined people who refused to give up until they'd learned from it.
So, in looking at that video, learning from failure. So, right here, the lesson says that you're going to work with a partner, but since we do not have partners right now, because you're working independently. So, these are things that you need to think about. What big mistakes did the engineers make? What did they learn from the mistake? What would have happened if they'd given up? So first, let's explore question number 1. What big mistake did the engineers make? So in you thinking about it, they tried to save money by using a less expensive design, and the bridge collapsed due to high winds. That was the reason for number 1. And number 2, so what did they learn from the mistake? They need to improve the design to withstand high winds. The cheaper option isn't always the best option. So that was a big learning lesson for the engineers. Can you imagine how expensive all that building cost and then having it collapse? So in the last question, what would have happened if they'd given up? So engineers still might design unsafe bridges. There still might not be a bridge across Tacoma Narrows if they had given up. So, engineers learned from their very big mistake. So, one big question is, did engineers have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset? So, a fixed mindset would have said, oh, it didn't work, it was a failure, let's just give up. But a growth mindset in the engineers, they thought of options and ways to fix it and make it better and sturdy. And you saw that video, how beautiful that bridge looked and how useful it is for people crossing that bridge. So they used a growth mindset, and that's what we're hoping to get all of you doing, growth mindsets. If you're not good at math, well, you're going to figure out a way to get very good at math. So here we're going to explore another student who made a mistake. So it's called Manny's mistake. Manny wonders if he should redesign the flyers or make them bigger. Then he looks around at his classmates. Everyone is busy checking their phones. So he made a flyer. So let's see what he does. Manny's mistake. So this is what Manny did. Instead of making new flyers, Manny creates a website and a few social media accounts to promote his project. So he made a flyer to promote a project. But since everybody was on the phone, Manny was thinking, hey, what if I put it on social media and it gets out there better instead of a flyer? So he tells his friends about his website and they share it with others. So although most people aren't responsible for a big mistake as large as a collapse of a huge bridge, we can use the same kind of questions we might use after a bridge collapses to help us learn from everyday mistakes. Like in this scenario with Manny. Even though he put up flyers all over the school, Manny received only one donation. It's been a whole month and he felt discouraged and he was ready to quit. Manny wonders if he should redesign the flyers or make them bigger. Then he looks around at his classmates. Everybody's busy checking their phones. So, with that, instead of making new flyers, this is when Manny decided to put on social media a new website to share with his friends. So, what do you think of his problem solving? So, thanks to Manny coming up with the solution, the word spread and Manny received several donations through the social media. People even liked and shared photos of his project on social media. So, in reviewing this scenario, what was Manny's mistake? So he relied on paper flyers to promote his book donation project in the digital age. So what did he learn from a mistake? His classmates were looking at their phones and not his flyers. He needed to change his strategy. What would have happened if he'd given up? His project would have failed. So let's get back to our example from the warm-up and identify something we learned. For example, a new cook who kept overcooking things might learn to test the food more often to see if it's done. So to wrap up this lesson, this week, when you make a mistake, remember those bridge engineers and think about what you can learn from your mistakes and how you can keep going. So in this next lesson, we'll learn how we can identify roadblocks we might face as we pursue our goal. So keep that in mind. Remember that after you listen to this video, you're going to be doing some classwork. So make sure you listen to the second part of this video.